the air. No negotiating during the show. Mark Meyer here. Special guest has flown in. Laura's on assignment.
She is on assignment. One more week.
Jackie's here.
Jackie's here.
In the building.
Yep. And
Good morning.
Good morning. And our special guest today, drum roll, frequent caller, answer man, the Wizard of Oz, Ron Ellison from American Title.
Weather updates from Manchester.
That would be the Wizard of Manchester.
And if anybody has any real estate related questions or anything else, really, because Ron, I don't know whether you know this, but this is more than a real estate show.
I know from listening.
Lifestyle.
Greg and I talk, I know. Yeah. You never know what to expect.
Never.
787-3397, or I have my trusty computer on, my newer trusty computer, which is, and my email address is mark@thinkingrealestate.com. And that's our website address as well, thinkingrealestate.com. Thinking, Thinking. I had somebody ask us, I shouldn't say this on the air, but I had somebody ask us if it was sinking real estate. It was sinking real estate.
That was unfair.
Yeah.
Unfair.
That was on the news the last 2 weeks.
Hey, Ron, there's a big luncheon today.
Big luncheon today. Board of Realtors
Okay.
monthly membership meeting. And some of you might know that, I think it was the 24th of January at the City Commission, and we wish Laura were here. There was talk of the rental registry and inspection cycles with the city, and so been a lot of concern, a lot of phone calls at the Board of Realtors, so the board has asked Patrick Birch from the city to come and address those issues. So to me, that's a big issue. Don't know exactly. A lot of rumors going around what's going to happen with inspections, the cycle, foreclosures. They're even using the term point of sale in the future. So we're all interested to see what's going on there.
What's the big issue?
Where's Laura when we need her? I think one of the biggest issues, and I will not purport to be the expert on this, the city has always tried on the income properties to have a regular inspection cycle, and they are way behind in that.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to get caught up, and it's almost like a sinking ship because throw all the foreclosures in there. So I don't want to speak for the inspection department, but it's a lot of work, and again, let's throw in funding issues.
So what is the registration designed to do? I know that 51% of the houses in the city of Jackson are non-owner occupied, and so that means 49% of the homes would not need to be inspected unless the city institutes this point of sale, which would require all housing transactions to have an inspection prior to a closing.
So you're trying to make me the expert on this that I'm not. It's just, I guess all I'm saying is,
We'll have to have Pat on.
Well, in other parts of the state, this is a hot topic in Grand Rapids right now, and the Michigan Association of Realtors is involved in it. So I think we're all interested, and I'm glad Patrick's coming to the board to kind of maybe clear the air and give some direction. So I'm not sure that the commission is clear on what direction they're going. Obviously. And Laura had something on her website after the meeting about something's got to be done and use common sense. So I just think it's going to be an interesting meeting, and
Something's got to be done to catch up.
I think to catch
Stop
up and
the
be
bleeding.
and be consistent. I think consistency, because
Aren't they always behind?
it's not just Jackson; it's everywhere.
All right.
Yeah. So and again,
That just takes a backseat to many other issues. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair to say, and again, if you are in the city of Jackson, you're going to be cautious and say, wait a minute, are you depending on how you do this, are you going to drive people out? Inspections mean repairs.
Yep.
Which means if I have to put money into my property, am I going to increase rent? So it's
Somebody's going to pay for it.
somebody's, there's no free ride here. So interesting topic this afternoon.
Do you see that harming closings?
I think probably short term it'll have a small ripple, but probably long term, no. I wouldn't think so. I think it's just another thing to deal with, which is not a big deal.
Laura's comment about common sense. As I drove out here, Francis and Morel, they tore that house down. It looks great. So, we got to remember maybe the city's headed in the right direction. There's a purpose for this, and stabilizing neighborhoods is important. So, I'm going to be there with with open ears, just pay attention.
So next week we'll have a report.
Kind of a recap.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Laura about it before next week too, and figure out something good to say. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's it'll be a learning curve for all of us.
Well, because it's inevitable. I mean, you drive around the city, you know, something needs to happen for consistency.
Well, how big would it be if they're inspecting all sales?
That'd be
All
a pretty
final
big
sales?
That would be huge.
Yeah.
Because
Could they do that?
deal. Yeah.
well,
They could.
Well, no,
Other municipalities.
They would have the resources to do that?
well, that's the issue. No,
That's yeah.
there must be a plan.
There's not many.
There's got to be a plan.
There's not a whole lineup of inspectors down there, to my knowledge, is there, Ron?
Well, no, but if it slows things down, maybe you know, I'll take continuing ed on inspections. Maybe I could moonlight.
All right.
Yeah. Exactly. Opportunity.
You know, I want to be on your farm show. I could be, you know, jack of all trades.
You're always welcome in that show. You being the farmer that you are.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know.
So tell me what's happening in the world of title insurance and title work. We've spoken at great length on several shows about MERS, and is that a dead issue, done issue?
It's
Gone?
a done issue. It's a gone issue. I mean, the MERS, you know, mortgage recordation, electronic recordation system that dealt with handling assignments. There was some confusion. Did they have a right to foreclose mortgages? I won't bore you to death. The Supreme Court said they were okay. So the foreclosures that were held up are back on track. You know, and the big issue, and maybe we talked about it, people weren't making their payments. This was a technicality and it slowed things down. But in my opinion, nobody was hurt by the MERS issue. And
Monetarily, you mean?
Monetarily, correct. Because the reason you got foreclosed on, you weren't making your payments. And it's cleared up. So, you know, what am I seeing right now, and maybe some of Jackie's input, a lot of confusion. People that are doing short sales, a lot of confusion with the homeowner. Am I going to be released from liability? I mean, you know, we've got real estate agents trying to give advice, tax advice, and I had a closing yesterday, and the seller called me 4 different times. And your paperwork's got to say if you're being released from liability, you know, and a real estate agent can't tell you that your credit's going to be okay in 2 or 3 years. You need to, you know, I said, you need to talk to a lender who's going to help you. And then again, you got to keep your credit clean on other issues. I mean, so it's a lot of confusion again. And what percentage of the market right now is short sales?
Oh,
I have 17 deals, 14 deals that are short sales.
14. Jackie's just said she has 14 deals that are short sales.
Yeah.
Out of how many?
17.
17.
Yeah. So again, it's a lot of confusion, and you know, somebody said refer the seller to an attorney who's an expert on short sales. Well,
Is there?
is there? Now, if Bill were here, Bill would say yes, but
Not a lot.
there's not in this market. No, maybe there are in Ann Arbor, but
So are there issues all over the board then?
they're all. Yeah, I think they're all over.
And we talked about this last week, and that I had my first short sale turned down last week, and it was because the lender said that the owner had gotten married, moved into her husband's house. We're now trying to sell her house on a short sale, but since she hasn't used it as her primary residence in the last couple of years, they won't.
That issue came up with a phone call that I had this week. They left Jackson, moved up north, and the lender said, you don't live there anymore, it's not your primary residence, so maybe we're not going to release you from liability. So, a lot of bad advice out there. And
The hard part for the homeowner is they can't, I mean, and the banks, is that they're forcing these into foreclosure then. Rather than to
Correct.
deal with it
There's no-
in a logical manner, they're forcing a bad situation.
true. You know, Greg, as I drove out, your news story about the president announcing
Yep.
the lenders and people that are underwater and refi, that is a continuing story that if the people are underwater, refi them, get it over with because they want to stay there. And for 18 to 24 months, FHA's been doing that, and the lenders don't get it. People want to stay there, help them stay there, or help them on a short sale get out so that we don't have foreclosures And we don't have Lansing try to pass legislation saying if you trash the house during foreclosure, we can come after you. Because who's going to enforce this stuff? There is no common sense in the foreclosure world or the short sale world right now. That's frustrating.
And how many of your deals are still short sales and foreclosures? Over 50%?
Oh, I'm going to say between 40 and 50. Sure it is.
So that's right in line with what's the whole closing
Correct.
market right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. And there is no stability there.
So if you're looking for information, really, that should be the realtor, shouldn't it, Ron?
Yeah, there are real estate people, and I mean, Jackie's got how many, would you say 14 right now? You know, there are real estate people that specialize
Right.
in doing short sales, and that's who you've got. You got to do your homework. You've got to interview the real estate person and say, have you done this? And some people use a third-party transaction person to do this, but again, it's kind of like when people say, I need an attorney. Well, who's your attorney? Because if they don't handle real estate, you don't want to pay the learning curve.
Why would, well, this is why would I as a realtor want to have a third party person do my job for me?
Because you don't want to do, I mean, you answered your own question. I mean,
It's not hard
I-
to do, it's time consuming and every deal is different, so you gotta be patient and diligent. And I
True.
talked last week about Facebook stalking the president of Wells Fargo Mortgage until I got my answer a couple months ago, but it's not a difficult process, it's just tedious.
Tedious, but I mean, Mark, and we could name names, but if I'm Realtor A and my business plan is to do all of this, I don't want to focus on short sales, so I'm gonna hire a Rob Jacobs or somebody like that to do it. And again, you guys are fortunate, you've got Jackie in your office doing it. You know, my daughter works at a title company in Ann Arbor, my old partner, and my ex-wife. They have somebody in their office that specializes in it, so you gotta do your homework.
Is it harder for you to do short sale closings? I mean, is it any different than a regular closing by the time it gets to you?
Well, in getting to us, Mark, we're gonna do an estimated closing HUD statement
Right.
4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times as things change, and so it's a lot more work.
Is it?
Sure it is.
Okay. But is the title search different?
Oh, the title search is simple.
Okay,
Yeah.
You taking calls?
sure.
Good morning.
Morning, Zach. I'm sitting here reading where prices fell again in November, more than expected, 0.07 or 0.7, and also dropped the same amount in October. And it was this drop of 3.4% decline from the previous month, falling 3.7% compared to the month before that. So actually, home prices aren't stabilizing. Foreclosures are still climbing. If you buy a home today, you'll be underwater by next year because of the price of the home keeps falling and falling. And it says there is no end to this in sight as of now. So this is going to continue, and housing prices are going to continue to fall, and foreclosures are going to continue to climb because there's no money. They're keeping it at 0%. Things are declining faster than normal.
Well,
What's your take on that?
Okay, thank you,
thanks.
Jim.
I would say that my personal opinion is that that's a national average, and I think our prices here have somewhat stabilized. Prices were down. I mean, we talk frequently about statistics, close prices, the number of units, and the units have been really pretty consistent over the last 2 or 3 years, and prices have come down, but not in those numbers. And so I'm guessing that those are national averages, and I think that generally speaking, we're probably doing better than many markets around.
If you ask me today versus a year ago, it's better.
Yeah,
You know,
but it's still a struggle.
It's still a struggle. I mean,
You know what I think one of the struggles is, and Ron sees this on the other side of things than I do, but it's hard for people to get loans. It's hard. I've got somebody right now that wants to close on a house, and their PMI payment is going to be $250 a month. And, you know, the banks, we need the banks need us, and I don't understand what they're doing.
well, we've overreacted. You've heard me say that before, Greg. Is that, you know, let's go back 5 years ago.
Well,
there
it's
there
too
were no.
easy.
It was
Too
too
easy.
easy. And so, Mark, you're right. We've
Now they've-
overreacted. Now,
right.
I saw a blurb in a headline on the internet that the government's going to loosen credit standards to make it easier. Stay tuned. But Mark, you're right. Closing I did 2 days ago. Go over the payment, the buyer goes, oh wow, PMI was gonna be 50 and it was $96. So, you know, whether I'm doing a refi or.
That's the difference between buying a house and not buying a house.
Sure
Yeah.
it is.
Sure.
Sure it is. And, I think we've overreacted.
And I've had deals get, sorry to interrupt you, but I've had deals get postponed, not, you know, they got back on track because the lender was having a hard time getting PMI insurance for a buyer.
Right.
And I've never had that happen before.
But is it fair to say there's always overreaction when somebody's losing money?
That's true, yeah.
And PMI, for those who don't sell real estate, is
Yeah.
private mortgage insurance, which insures the bank, not the homeowner or not
And-
anybody else.
And just a little humor, the homeowner that was buying and paying the $96 versus the 50-some because of issues complained that, you know, this is unfair that I have to pay for insurance that benefits someone else. And I looked at him and I said, do you have life insurance? I mean, you know, excuse me. If you had better credit and you had more money down, you wouldn't have, I mean,
The issue is that, in my mind, this is another way that the lenders are gouging the borrower in that, and I don't like to use that word gouge, but I will, in that they're saying that they're doing this because it's a larger risk. Well, most of the mortgages are government backed, so they have no risk. The risk is just not there, in my mind.
Jackie said she's taking calls. Good morning.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that is in the top 20 cities that they keep an eye on. This is a survey that they were keeping an eye
Okay.
on. Cities. I wanted to ask you, my daughter and son-in-law are looking at purchasing a foreclosed home. Could you kind of go over what some of the problems are with, purchasing a foreclosure home? I've heard her talk about it a couple times. I think also you, where you put quite a bit of time in on one, and it was real hard to close on.
Well, the problems for a buyer are you're buying it as is. You just don't know what you're getting. So my first advice would be to have it thoroughly inspected. You want a pest inspection. You want to hire a licensed building inspector to tell you as much about the house as you can. You probably are going to want some sort of home warranty on the property, and some lenders, as they're selling these, will include a home warranty. Some won't, but it's $400 and it's good insurance. You want to get a title company like American Title to do the buyer's policy to make sure that there aren't any issues. Ron?
well, very good point, because 3 weeks ago, we had a real estate agent call us up. His buyer bought foreclosure, used out-of-town title company, was now turning around a month later, selling it, and the out-of-town title company had missed $693 worth of assessments, delinquencies, and whatever. So it's frustrating to us that we spent a lot of time helping them, and they were questioning our accuracy because, again,
So on a buyer standpoint, the buyer can insist, or they can have their title work done. They can have a simultaneous title policy done on their behalf for this closing.
they can. And Mark, even on a cash transaction where you don't have that option, some agents are coming to us and maybe not buying insurance, but having us do a title search, double checking the assessments, the water bills, in the city, weed cutting, cleanup, things like that, because we know the local customs. Whether it's my company or the other two companies that are local, we know the market. And if you're really a buyer's agent, you're doing a disservice to your buyer by not giving them that option.
Let's squeeze a question in here. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
I know that voice.
Mr. Ellison, how are you? Hey,
Good.
great discussion, guys. Just a couple clarifications. On the terminology, I think we need to clarify that the gouging on the PMI, that's generally Fannie, Freddie, and FHA guys, which is our government. That's not a bank charge. That does not go to the bank. It goes right to the insurance companies that are only brought in when someone doesn't have 20% down.
Well, this is a discussion that we could have all day long, but the banking lobbyists are the ones that got this approved. So
We probably could. Other clarification would be, everybody talks about giving the house back to the bank in short sales. And everybody listening needs to understand that it's taxpayer money, guys. A short sale or giving it back to the bank is generally a Fannie, a Freddie, or an FHA guarantee, and we as taxpayers are writing that check.
That's
Yeah.
true, but there has to be some common sense involved too, John, and
Yep.
and if the bank is going to get this property back, they need to deal with it in a manner that is the least painful for everybody, including you and me.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that 100%. And when we get them, we try them hard. We don't want them.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you.
That's why we like dealing with
I
local
know the
banks.
voice, and it's John Waldron from County National Bank. And I'm going to make a comment because a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago, there was legislation to shorten the redemption period with foreclosures. And everybody said Bill George and Ron Ellison disagree on this. And I said, if every bank handled foreclosures the way County National did, you could short it, because County National is a local bank. They will bend over backwards to work with people. And so, you know, John, I hear your frustration, and I appreciate what you guys do. And again, you know, the big banks don't work with people the way you guys do, so thank you.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we like to send people to local banks. And so, to the caller's question about what's something the buyer can do, call County National Bank 768-7200,
Well,
or you can call Ron Ellison 787-4830.
I like that. Yeah.
We have a couple of, I'm a phone number savant. We have a couple of price reductions. 485 Skyline, which is down at Farwell Lake, $122,010. And 230 North Forbes, or as one of my clients call it, Forbus, $11,135. I have a new listing out at Eagle Point, Clark Lake, 229 condo. Really great place.
cool.
Pretty.
See you next week.
I'll-
Thanks, Ron.
maybe-
You're welcome.
Ron Ellison from American.